Welcome to the Daily News Currents. Today is Tuesday, November 19th, and for today's headlines we have Morning Joe stars reveal a Mar-a-Lago reunion with Trump. Texas Education Board to vote on Bible-infused lessons in public schools. Human in bear suit was used to defraud insurance companies, officials said. Engineers discover a 132-year-old message in a bottle in a Scottish lighthouse. An E. coli outbreak linked to organic carrots sickens people in 18 states. Morning Joe stars reveal a Mar-a-Lago reunion with Trump. The MSNBC host Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough met with Donald Trump last week in Florida in an effort to restart communications. The married MSNBC host Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough drove half an hour from their Florida home on Friday to meet with an old friend turned enemy, President-elect Donald J. Trump. Their relationship has been complicated. Mr. Trump was once a regular guest on their talk show, Morning Joe, and the couple rang in 2017 at a New Year's Eve party at his Mar-a-Lago estate. Then things deteriorated. Mr. Trump called Mr. Scarborough a psycho and Miss Brzezinski crazy, claiming that he had once seen her bleed badly from a facelift. Morning Joe became a redoubt of the anti-Trump resistance. This year, the couple repeatedly warned that a second Trump presidency would threaten democracy's future. Even for talk show hosts, it turns out, elections have consequences. For those asking why we would go to speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? Ms. Brzezinski told viewers on Monday, disclosing the meeting for the first time. Joe and I realize it's time to do something different, and that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him. The meeting at Mar-a-Lago was their first in-person encounter in 7 years. Mr. Scarborough said that the group had discussed abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets, and that there had been plenty of disagreement to go around. What we did agree on, Ms. Brzezinski added, was to restart communications. She compared the summit to the diplomatic work of her father, Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was President Jimmy Carter's national security advisor. My father often spoke with world leaders, with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed, she said. That is a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. How viewers of MSNBC, generally a media safe for the anti-Trump left, perceive this reunion is an open question. Viewership of the Naval Network collapsed last week in the immediate aftermath of Mr. Trump's victory, although a similar decline in 2016 was short-lived. There were hints of dissent within the network on Monday. Shortly after Morning Joe aired, Kate Fang, who hosts a Saturday show on MSNBC, wrote on X that normalizing Trump is a bad idea, period. Mr. Scarborough had seemed to anticipate that objection. Don't be mistaken, we are not here to defend or normalize Donald Trump, he said on his Monday broadcast. We are here to report on him and to hopefully provide you insight that are going to better equip all of us in understanding these deeply unsettling times. Mr. Scarborough reported that Mr. Trump was upbeat and seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. Mr. Trump issued his own perspective on Monday, describing his meeting with the MSNBC as extremely cordial. Many things were discussed. I very much appreciate the fact that they wanted to have open communication, Mr. Trump told Fox News. In many ways, it's too bad it wasn't done long ago. The president-elect, who closely tracks his coverage in the news media, said he felt an obligation to the American public and to our country itself to be open and available to the press. But Mr. Trump added, if not treated fairly, however, that will end. Besides his relentless demonization of the news media on the campaign trail, Mr. Trump has threatened to revoke the broadcast license of major television networks, filed lawsuits against outlets that published reports or commentary that displeased him, and barred specific reporters from his election night party. On Sunday, the president-elect accused a respected pollster of election fraud because she predicted a Trump defeat in Iowa that did not materialize. Texas Education Board to vote on Bible-infused lessons in public schools. A new curriculum would focus on Christianity more than other religions. A kindergarten lesson on the Golden Rule, for example, would teach about Jesus and his Sermon on the Mount. Texas education officials are expecting to vote on Monday on whether to approve a new elementary school curriculum that infuses teachings on the Bible into reading and language art lessons. The optional curriculum, one of the most sweeping efforts in recent years to bring a Christian perspective to more students, would test the limits of religion instruction in public education. It could also become a model for other states and for the administration of President-elect Donald J. Trump, who has promised to champion the conservative Christian movement in his second presidential term. In the ascent but highly contested push to expand the role of religion in public life, Texas has emerged as a leader. It was the first state to allow public schools to hire religious chaplains as school counselors, and that the Republican-controlled legislature is expected to renew its attempts to require public school classrooms to display the Ten Commandments. The new curriculum, which covers kindergarten through 5th grade, would be optional, although school districts would receive a financial incentive to adopt it. The Texas State Board of Education sets standards for what students must be taught and approves the selection of curriculums, and individual schools and school districts choose which one they will teach. Texas has about 2.3 million public school students in kindergarten through 5th grade who could be taught the new curriculum. Religion makes up a relatively small portion of the overall content, but the lessons delve into Christianity far more often and in depth than they do into other faiths, religious scholars say, in a review of the materials by New York Times found. In kindergarten, for example, children would be taught that many religions value the Golden Rule, but the lessons would be focused on the Christian version and introduce students to Jesus and his Sermon on the Mount. In a 5th grade lesson on Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper, students would be taught an account of the final meal shared by Jesus and his 12 disciples, and would read several verses from the Gospel of Matthew. The Bible has often appeared in American schools throughout the nation's history, and schools are free to teach from religious text. Even so, the proposed curriculum has ignited an uproar with parents and teachers, including some Christian Texans, expressing worry that the lessons blur the line between instruction and evangelizing, and present scripture and tenets of the Christian faith as factual truths to young children. Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican, and other supporters of the new program say that the Bible is a fundamental text in American history, and argue that students' knowledge of the world would be incomplete without a classical education and robust understanding of the Bible stories. The Texas Education Agency, which oversees public education in the state, released the new curriculum in the spring after the state enacted a law directing the agency to develop its own free textbooks. The law was aimed at providing high-quality teaching materials to educators, who often spend long hours searching for them, lawmakers said. The move provoked immediate controversy. A top curriculum publisher took issue with the state's request to add more biblical content to its materials, the education news outlet The 74 reported. When a panel was convened to vet the new curriculum for bias, opponents argued that the state included several people on the panel who were known for religious advocacy, including Ben Carson, the former federal housing secretary, to rubber stamp the lessons. They're using Texas as a testing ground for these extreme ideas, the state representative James Tallarico, a Christian and a Democrat, who is also a student at Presbyterian Seminary in Austin. Similar clashes are erupting in other states like Oklahoma and Louisiana, where conservative Christian leaders have taken steps to expand the role of religion in public schools. Proponents say Christian themes are pervasive in American culture, and that exposing students to them is crucial to their academic development. Our language is redolent with concepts, phrases, and allusions drawn from the Bible and other touchstones of Western thought and culture, Robert Ponsindo, a senior fellow of the American Enterprise Institute, wrote in a recent column. Without complete command of these references, students, particularly poor, minority, and immigrant students, will struggle to fully comprehend what they read, Mr. Pondesinko, a former teacher, wrote. The new curriculum has provoked the anger of Texans of other faiths, who say the lessons lack balance and in some places are even offensive. Some Jewish families were outraged, for example, over the activity included in the 2nd grade lesson on the Old Testament story of Esther. In the biblical account, a high-ranking official of the Persian Empire cast lots to decide when all the Jews in the land would be killed, and Esther stopped the planned attack. And the lesson included a game in which teachers would ask students to choose a number and then roll a die to see if their number was called. This is shocking, offensive, and just plain wrong, Sharon Vane, a Jewish parent of 2 Texas public school graduates, said at a public hearing in the curriculum in September, where the majority of speakers criticized the potential lessons. Do we ask elementary students to pretend to be Hitler? Ms. Vane asked, calling the curriculum wildly problematic in its depiction of Jews. The curriculum developers removed the dice rolling game and made other changes after the hearing. Thomas K. Lindsay, the Higher Education Policy Director at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, a conservative group, said that he was very frustrated and very saddened that the criticisms of the curriculum were focused on its religious content. He argued that the lessons do not stylize to children. The Texas Education Agency has said that the proposed curriculum was developed using cognitive science research to improve student outcomes, and Mr. Lindsay said that the critics were ignoring its potential to help close reading gaps for children who are behind. I understand we're a polarized country, said Mr. Lindsay, a member of the State Curriculum Advisory Board, but we've got a chance to do something good for the kids who need it the most. Some critics of the new curriculum say that besides a lack of balance, some of its lessons simply are not very good. Mark A. Chansey, a professor of religious studies at the Southern Methodist University near Dallas, said that the material includes apparent errors. He added that lessons were also often not age-appropriate, he added, noting that a lesson that describes Genesis to kindergartners could lead them to believe it was fact that God created the world in 6 days. David R. Brockman, a Christian theologian and religious studies scholar who reviewed the curriculum, said he has long been an advocate for teaching about religion in public schools, but lessons must be balanced, accurate, and not promote one religion over the other, he said. The Texas curriculum, he says, does not clear the bar. In a 5th grade unit on racial justice, students would be taught that Abraham Lincoln and the abolitionists relied in part on a deep Christian faith to guide their certainty of the injustice of slavery, but they would not be taught that other Christians leaned on the same religion to defend slavery and segregation. It was one example, Mr. Brockman said, of what he called a whitewashing of the negative details of Christian history that helps promote Christianity as an inherently good religion. Human and bear suit was used to defraud insurance companies, officials say. Footage of bear rifling through luxury cars was submitted to insurance companies, which paid out $140,000, but something seemed off. A video that was submitted as part of an insurance claim in January appeared to capture a disturbing scene: a brown bear ransacking a Rolls-Royce that was parked in a Southern California driveway. Similar videos involving other luxury cars were submitted to 2 additional insurers, and 3 companies collectively paid out more than $140,000. But something about the footage seemed off, and one of the companies reported the video and image of claw marks on the upholstery to the California Department of Insurance. On Wednesday, after concluding an investigation it called Operation Bear Claw, the department said it determined that the bear was not in fact a bear. Upon further scrutiny of the video, the investigation determined the bear was actually a person in a bear costume. The department said in a news release. The scratch marks inside the vehicles, it said, were made with claw-like kitchen accessory usually used to shred meat. The California Department of Insurance said on Wednesday that 4 Los Angeles County residents had been arrested. Ruben Tamarzan, 26, Arat Chikaran, 39, Vahe Mudakaran, 32, all of Glendale, California, and Alpha Zuckerman, 39, of Los Angeles. Each faced charges of insurance fraud and conspiracy, the department said. Just going to show you the video, but there is an ad. A spokeswoman for the San Bernardino District Attorney's Office said in an email statement on Thursday that the case was under review and that once a filing determination had been made, court dates would be scheduled. It was not immediately clear if the defendants had hired lawyers. The 3 men who were arrested were still in custody on Thursday, the authorities said. Ms. Zuckerman had been released on a $50,000 bond, according to the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office. The California Department of Insurance said in its news release that the first insurance company suspected fraud after it received a claim related to a bear rifling through a 2010 Rolls-Royce Ghost on January 28 in Lake Arrowhead, California, a resort area about 80 miles northeast of Los Angeles. Investigators then found that similar claims had been submitted to other insurance companies with the same date of loss at the same location. for interior damage of 2 other vehicles, both Mercedes-Benzes, the department said. The claims contained remarkably similar videos and photos. The compilation of nearly identical videos the department released this week shows what appears to be a bear climbing into vehicles after opening a car door. In the videos, which appear to have been taken by a surveillance camera from an eave overlooking a driveway, the bear appears to swat at the dashboard. 2 of the videos show it crawling into the back seat. Investigators consulted a biologist at the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, who they said confirmed their hunch that they were not dealing with a particularly dexterous bear, but rather clearly a human in a bear suit. The movements of the supposed bear were not convincing, said Tim Daly, a spokesperson for the department, who noted the suit appeared to be ill-fitting. Nor were the scratch marks and other evidence left behind in the vehicle consistent with those of a bear. A bear leaves behind a big mess, he said. In addition, brown bears have not been seen in California for about a century, he said. The only remaining species of wild bear in the state is black bear, which does come in shades of dark brown and tan, according to the Department of Fish and Wildlife. After executing a search warrant, investigators discovered a bear costume in one suspect's home, the department said. They also found meat shredding handles, known as meat claws. This is the first time a fake bear attack had been used to defraud an insurer, according to the spokeswoman of the California Department of Insurance, who said investigators had uncovered their far-fetched schemes over the years. Humans had often blamed bears for their crimes. Just this fall, people sought to frame bears for killings in Tennessee and Montana, according to the authorities. Engineers discover a 132-year-old message in a bottle in a Scottish lighthouse. Mechanical engineers inspecting the lighthouse found a surprising message, a handwritten missive from workers of another age. Okay. After 2 centuries of faithfully guiding sailors around a bustry headland of southwest Scotland, the lighthouse needed some attention. Ross Russell, a mechanical engineer who was helping refurbish the coarse-walled lighthouse in the village of Kirkcolum, when he peeked into the cavity in a wall of the old structure. That's when he saw it, an old glass bottle with something curled up inside. He and his colleagues finished the bottle out of its hiding place, called the lighthouse keeper, and congregated at the bottom of the structure to inspect their discovery. Inside the bottle, which was stopped with rusted wire wrapped around an old cork, was a note handwritten in cursive. How old exactly became clear when they jolted away the cork and pulled the note through the bottleneck using 2 cables. The date on the header, September 4th, 1892. We were shaking, especially me, said Barry Miller, the lighthouse keeper for Corswall Lighthouse, who raced over last month when the workers told him what they had found. I couldn't keep my hands still. I read the note out to the other guys. Was it a love letter, a disgruntled complaint, or someone's final goodbye? We all swore ourselves to silence, if it was a treasure map, he joked. It was not as lucrative as a treasure map. The note turned out to be more relevant to their work, at least. It was a 132-year-old missive written in ink from former engineers and lighthouse keepers who were installing the new Frenzel lens and lantern at the top of the tower. This lantern was erected by James Well engineer, John Westwood millwright, James Brody engineer, and David Scott laborer of the firm of James Mellon and Sons engineers, Milton Houseworks, Edinburgh, during the months from May to September, and relighted on Thursday night, 15 September 1892, it said. Other engineers who had worked on the lens were also named, along with the Corswell lighthouse keepers at the time: John Wilson, John B. Henderson, and John Lockhart. By great coincidence, we were working on the very lens which they had installed, Dr. Miller said, adding, it was a direct communication from them to us. When the note was written, Queen Victoria was Britain monarch, and Grover Cleveland would soon return for a second presidential term in the United States. Mr. Russell, 36, the engineer, said the bottled message gave him a sense of being connected to the past. It almost sent shivers up your spine, because you knew what he was reading out had been written 132 years ago. To find a bottle and a note on the beach would be incredible enough, never mind in the wall of a lighthouse, he said, calling it a right good time capsule. Perhaps the note was intended for future workers. Hidden as it was in the walls behind a cupboard, the crew had dismantled the cupboard only to check some beams. Excuse me. Part of an inspection of the heavy lens. We could have easily missed it, Mr. Russell said. The installation of the new frontal lens in 1892 would have been a massive project, he added, wondering if the crew had written the note simply to record their pride. Ages later, some of their descendants have been able to share that pride and grasp another piece of their family history, as word has spread about the note, according to reporting by BBC Scotland. The best part of it for me was getting that history and getting these connections the note had with people who are local to the area, Mr. Russell said. The Corswell Lighthouse is one of more than 200 still operated and maintained by the Northern Lighthouse Board, which employs engineers, technicians, and lighthouse keepers across Scotland and the Isle of Man, according to its website. For Dr. Miller, a former academic who has looked after lighthouses in the southwest of Scotland for 20 years, the protection they offer passing vessels endures time, even as technology has advanced to include radio and satellite navigation. The lighthouses remain absolutely essential to coastal navigation, he added, adding that they are a visual aid that helps vessels avoid reefs, sandbanks, and other dangers. The note and the bottle are being stored in Edinburgh at the board's office, but it's a temporary home. Once the refurbishment is complete, the group said, the note and the bottle will return to the hiding place in the Corswell Lighthouse, where it had sat for more than 130 years. Beside it will be one addition, another bottle, this time with a note from the engineers and keepers from this age, describing their work and signing their names. Sometime in the future, perhaps, we will be able to communicate to someone else, Dr. Miller said. E. coli outbreak linked to organic carrots sickens people in 18 states. One person has died and at least 38 people have become ill following an E. coli outbreak linked to organic carrots, according to the federal health officials. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention said Sunday that cases emerged between September 6 and October 28 across 18 states, with Washington, Minnesota, and New York reporting the highest number of cases. The CDC warned that the outbreak may have reached additional states, and the actual number of infected individuals is likely much higher than reported. Is this because many people recover without medical care and are not tested for E. coli, the agency said in a statement. Investigations indicate that Grimway Farms was the common supplier of the organic carrots consumed by individuals before they got sick, according to the CDC. On Saturday, Grimway Farms, which is one of the world's largest producers of carrots, initiated a recall for multiple sizes and brands of its organic baby and whole carrots. That includes baby organic carrots, with best if used by dates that range from September 11th to November 12th, and whole organic carrots that were sold in stores around August 14th to August 23rd. The recall applies to carrots sold at Trader Joe's, Wegmans, Sprouts, 365 from Whole Foods, Good and Gather from Target, Market Side from Walmart, Greenwise from Publix, Simple Truth from Kroger, and more. The full list is available on the FDA website. Grimway Farms, based in Bakersfield, California, said the recalled items are likely no longer sold in grocery stores, but they may be in customers' refrigerators or freezers. The company urged that customers with recalled carrots should discard them and sanitize any surfaces they touched. Grimway Farms added that the implicated farms are out of production. The CDC said E. coli infections can cause diarrhea, urinary tract infections, pneumonia, sepsis, and other illnesses. Symptoms usually show up 3 to 4 days after the bacteria is consumed. Most people recover on their own after 5 to 7 days. However, the infection can sometimes result in a serious health condition called hemolytic uremic syndrome, which can lead to kidney failure, permanent health problems, and even death. The Food and Drug Administration said the recalled products may have been contaminated with the Shiga toxin producing type of E. coli. So far, of the 38 cases reviewed by the CDC, none have developed into HUS. That is all that we have for today. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.